You need to take a drive to 625 Pine Street.
So clearly they're gathering evidence, so why would that?
I've
Great.
driven by there for a week now,
So they
Good.
can't use it
and
in trial.
I'll talk to you after.
He didn't get it done, somebody else do it.
Well, now we have a flat tire again.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the budget meeting of the Borough Council of Middletown for September 23rd, 2024. If you could rise and say the pledge and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Grace?
Mr. Kliskevich?
I'm here.
Ms. Lloyd?
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Here.
Ms. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Lister is coming a little later, and Mr. Whittinger and Reed are not here.
I'd like to report on our last executive session. We discussed matters of personnel and real estate. No action was taken. Now is the time for public comment on agenda items. Seeing no public comment, we'll go to agenda item number 1, codes.
Hello.
Hey, Jason.
Okay, based off my budget and narrative here, the 2024 budget is looking really good. We'll be below our budget and should remain under budget overall. Pointing out just some of the ticklers on the approved or the 2024 budget is we have a increase in reimbursable services. This item is where we bill property owners for any services that the borough has had to do based off of violations or safety concerns. And we had quite a bit this year, so that has been over budget. But that should be billed back to us. If they don't get billed back to us, we have the option to lien the property on the expenses that are paid, or we just eat the cost if it's a small amount that's not worth all the extra expenses to do that. So that's one. My office supply budgets are almost at max, but we're not foreseeing any other expenses for the year, so it should still stay under the budgeted items. And for 2024, most of the items have been decreased in certain spots. If you look at, well, I should go to the payroll. I'm looking at proposed hires, standard increases in medical and raises, and I'm looking to continue with the hiring of the potential zoning officer and part-time codes officer. That's new, proposed this year. And this was due to the expectations that we're looking to have in the codes department overall in the borough. We were looking to have 2 full-time code officers in the beginning, and we had Bethany at that time, and she went and left for another job that's closer to her home. And that I could see was a huge difference in having 2 full-time and then being dropped down to a part-time. So if we could have 2 part-time to kind of supplement that full-time position, that would help us with the efficiency and the expectations that we have, and making sure that the residents are maintaining a safe environment and that permits and all that stuff are being implemented. For the expenses, like I was starting off with, I decreased the employee development a little bit. Our vehicle fuel has gone down. We haven't really budgeted over or gone over budget on that. The codes outsourcing, that's our third party fees. That has gone down because they've been mostly part-time versus full-time work. And vehicle repairs due to our newer code vehicle that was transferred from our borough manager to the codes department, we've had less expenses. So I budgeted to decrease those overall for the 2025 budget. One of the increases due to the reimbursable services having a slight uptick, I decided to increase that just to kind of offset that a little bit. Vehicle insurance, because that's standard, and subscription fees were slightly increased, just standard increases. One thing that I am proposing is a miscellaneous expense. I can explain this a little bit more. I did mention this in council, one of the workshop meetings, but I found that a company is able to digitize the resource room, all the maps and the documents that are into this resource room that we have here, and put that into our computer systems. There are a number of them that are already digitized, but there's a huge amount from old documents that are not. And for $30,000 for the 2025 year, they did this probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and they were honoring this price for the 25 budget for council to approve. They will digitize all the items in there, and then we'll have it all on our digital records, and then we can organize the hard copies better into the system and have a better filing system. So that'll be for just a one-time expense for the 2025 year budget, and then that'll go away after that. And then the vehicle lease is ending in 2025, so we won't have a car payment after the end of 2025. And that's it for me. If there are any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Item number 2, police.
Hello,
Hi.
Hello.
everybody has a budget narrative, correct?
We do.
All right, well, I made 12 copies then for nothing, so. Okay, for 2024, for this year's budget, we have no line items over budget. Many were under due to the staffing challenges we've been facing, but hopefully that's something we've turned around permanently. On a side note, we do have some applications, some additional applications on the job posting on police app, so hopefully we're at full staffing. We're still operating with 1 vacancy. The only capital outlay request that was fulfilled this year was the body worn camera request. That's been over a couple years, but it was, what type of money was that again? That did not, American Rescue money or
That was ICDA money.
ICDA money. So we implemented that this calendar year. For 2025, there are no discretionary funding increase requests, other than one line item. The ammo and weapons supplies was increased by $2,000 to support the taser replacement program. That's a capital expense for 2025, but I was able to fit it into the budget. We had talked about this before, so with the 10% increase to that line item, we can take care of that, the taser purchase. Operating supplies and dues and subscriptions increased due to the annual cost for existing software and services, so nothing new was planned other than, hey, this thing that cost $5,000 last year is now $6,500. So those are the only increases. The salaries that were on the attached budget were based on a 3% increase, although the contract is still in negotiations. We used this 3%, which has been the average increase over the last several years, just for a budget projection. There's also no capital outlay requests for 2025. I'm not requesting any vehicles or any major purchases this year. Other than that, the budget is the same as last year.
Any questions?
It really doesn't
pertain to this year's budget, but just something I would like you to just think about for next year, for 2026. Cause I'm just curious if there is a need and, maybe what it would look like, but I would like to see, or explore the idea of either having another part-time person at the police station to cover some of the later hours, because what time does Sydney leave now? Is it 2 or 4?
The office hours are 9 to 2.
9 to 2.
And she's there sometimes till 3, sometimes till 3:30, depending on what she has, to do, what kind of work. So even though somebody might walk up after 2 o'clock, and ring the buzzer, if they're there till like 3 o'clock, there's a good chance that she'll be able to greet them and allow them in. So.
That's good. She still does that.
On that note, I never really looked at the signs in the front of the police department, but they weren't real clear about what do you do when you get there at 6:30 at night. So we've taken care of that too,
That's
because
good.
it wasn't, obviously if nobody answers the door, you call the dispatch center, but not everybody knows that. So we kind of cleaned up those directions a little bit too.
So that is something I would like to maybe look at a little bit more closely,
Okay.
not this year, obviously, because we're so close,
Right.
and I don't want to throw that wrench in there, but
Okay,
for the following year,
okay,
if there's a need.
okay. Sounds good. Anybody got?
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, administration and finance.
Mine's gonna be pretty simple as well. For 2024, both the admin and finance budgets are within approved plan. In 2025, we have the standard 3% increase in payroll, 6% in benefits, and 6% insurance. There was a 30% increase in postage. First of all, the postage went up. And secondly, we have to replace our postage machine next year. The lease is up, but they want to give us a new machine because it follows federal guidelines that are required. I did a small increase in codification for 2025. It's purely based on actuals for 2024. I added in council continuing education for 2025 of 2,000. That was a request. Rochelle had gone to a conference and Pat Lister wanted to go to something, I believe. So we added that in for next year if any of the council members wanted to go to conferences or any trainings. I did reduce the bank fee line item slightly because it was very large last year because of, if you remember, we went over it last year because of industrial and commercial. We're paying through the portal and not to avoid bank fees. So I did reduce it. It's coming down. I do want to talk about, if you go to the second tab, general fund revenues. So when I, wait till you get there. So what I do when I plan for taxes is, now that we have the tax database, I can pull reports to give me the counts of who is billed occupation and who's billed per capita. Then I use those calculations to get to a number, and then I only plan 70% of that number because we don't collect 100%. Typically it's between 60 and 75% that we collect, and the rest of it goes to Keystone. And then that's where you see the prior year real estate taxes, prior year occupation, and prior year per capita. And I based those numbers just on historical, what we've done over the past few years. You'll see that earned income tax has gone up by $200,000, and again, that is just on collections that Keystone does for the county. So I looked at their projections for 2023 and 2024, and I feel comfortable with that number. Other major variances, television franchise fees, I dropped that. We're just not, for whatever reason, it's dropped. We're not getting as much revenue in on that. So that was a $12,000 change. Believe, the interest earnings, I did bump up significantly. Over the past couple of years, we've had a very healthy interest rate return. I'm not sure that's going to last, but we have been coming in at substantially more than $250,000 a year. So that's a conservative number, I think.
The franchise fees are dropping because of the number of streaming services that are available now. People are shutting off their Comcast hardline service or their Verizon, and they're purchasing Hulu or getting a Fire Stick or Roku. There's so many more options out there now. So I think we're going to see that continue to drop in the years to come.
That's it.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you, Sally. Now is the time for general public comment. Seeing none, we're going to adjourn and have a short executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Give you your
Sure do.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It doesn't include.
Meeting adjourned.